I used to think love was about trust. But now, the wife I love is siding with the man who abandoned her and our son for years while the one who always stayed. When she trusts his words more than mine, do I even have a place in this family anymore? I met Emily 6 years ago, when she was a single mom trying to balance work and care for her young son Jake. From the first time we met, I was drawn to her strength blended with gentleness, and the intelligent, slightly stubborn look in her eyes. She wasn't asking for help, didn't need anyone to save her, but I wanted to be there, simply because I felt I could be a steady presence. I hesitated at first. Stepping into the life of a woman with a child isn't easy. But Jacko was only 3 at the time. It changed everything. He clung to me, called me dad after just a few months, and I swear from that moment, I no longer saw him as anyone else's child. He was my son, even though we didn't share a drop of blood. I took Jake to school every morning, attended every parent-teacher meeting, taught him how to tie his shoes, how to throw a ball, and even how to apologize when he did something wrong. I was there for him during his most important early years when his biological father was completely absent. When Emily and I got married, I believed I finally had a family, imperfect, but real. We lived simply, but warmly. I never demanded recognition, never needed him to call me dad, but when he willingly did, my heart felt like it could burst. And then, years passed until 5 months ago, when Jake's biological father named Derek unexpectedly reappeared. No apologies, no explanation for why he'd vanished. He just came back as if he had a right. And what hurt me most wasn't his return but that Emily barely cared about setting boundaries. She let Derek see Jake, talk to him, and then slowly destroy everything Jake and I had built over 6 years. Jake started changing. He became more sullen, often comparing me to his real dad, and sometimes repeating phrases that felt like taunts. He's my real dad. You're just mom's husband. At first, I thought it was just a phase. Kids are easily influenced. But then it kept happening. I talked to Emily, hoping she'd understand that I was hurting, but she just replied, "You should pay less attention. He's still little." That answer was like a stab. I didn't expect her to choose Sadesi, just hoped she'd understand my feelings. But perhaps I had placed my trust in the wrong person. And then, the birthday incident happened. Jake was stood up by his biological father and the person called in to clean up the mess was me. I picked Jake up from school, took him to choose a gift for his mom, paid for it, and tried to make sure he didn't feel sad because of the disappointment from the other father. But on his birthday, he lied and said Derek had done everything. And Derek, he didn't even bother to correct him, he even smiled and took the credit. Watching Emily stand there, forcing a smile and saying nothing to defend me, I knew a part of me had shattered. That evening, after the birthday party ended, I couldn't keep my composure anymore. Jake had gone with his biological father, and it was just Emily and me in the kitchen, filled with leftover cake crumbs and unopened presents. I thought I'd get a thank you, or at least a sympathetic look. But when I spoke, all I got was an eye roll and her tired tone. "What are you angry about? It's just a small thing. He's a child." I choked. I didn't know where to begin. From the fact that I was there for Jake while Derek abandoned him, or from the fact that I was the one who paid for the gift her son proudly showed off as someone else's, or from the fact that she, the wife I loved and once thought would always be by my side, said nothing when I was publicly humiliated. I told Emily everything, that Jake had called me on Tuesday when his biological father forgot him at school, that I was the one who picked him up, took him to choose a gift, and tried to keep him happy, even though my heart was a mess, that the gift, a silver necklace engraved with Mom, was chosen by Jake, but paid for by me. I showed her credit card statements, call history, everything, but Emily just crossed her arms, coldly saying, "You're overreacting. I think Derek has been trying hard lately. Maybe it was just a misunderstanding this time." I couldn't believe my ears. "Are you saying I'm making things up to be right?" I asked. She didn't answer directly, just shrugged and repeated a sentence that even now I can't forget. "Honestly, Derek even gave me flowers. And I didn't see you prepare anything special." I was silent, not because I had nothing to say, but because I was too shocked. I don't need praise. I don't need public acknowledgement or recognition. But I need respect. I need to know that the wife I chose to be with isn't comparing me to the man who vanished from her life for years. I went to our room, packed a few clothes, and left the house late at night. I drove straight to my brother's house, the only person I could lean on at that moment. When I told him everything, he didn't need to ask anything further. He just silently handed me a cold can of beer and said, "You're not wrong to be hurt, but now is the time you need to think carefully about whether you still want to stay." That question kept replaying in my mind all night. I once thought love was enough, that if I was patient, if I was kind, everything would be okay. But it seems in Emily's eyes, I'll always just be the current husband, nothing more, nothing less. I lay on my brother's sofa, staring at the ceiling, and wondered, am I fighting this marriage alone? I stayed at my brother's house for 3 days. In those 3 days, Emily only texted me twice. A first text, "Jake asked where you are. I told him you're busy with work." And a second text, brief and chilling, "Let me know when you're coming home." Not a single apology, not a single question about how I was feeling, not even an acknowledgement that she might have been wrong for not believing me. I had hoped that after that birthday night, she would call, would realize she had been silent when I needed her most. But no, she didn't admit fault. On the contrary, she acted as if I was the one being unreasonably angry. I started to think, am I being too sensitive? Am I putting too high expectations on a single mother who always has to juggle everything: kids, work, her relationship with her child's biological father, and now me too? But then I remembered the years I had been there for Jake. I remembered the time he was bullied at school, and I sat for hours teaching him how to defend himself, how to stand up and say no without having to fight. I remembered the time he had a high fever in the middle of the night. Emily panicked, and I was the one who carried him to the car, rushing to the emergency room. I remembered the times he would fall into my arms after school, telling me about his day with bright, sparkling eyes as if I were the only one he trusted. And now all I was to him was a stranger, because that other man had just come back and sat in the empty chair I had held for 6 years. Jake is a child, I know that, and I'm not angry with him. I'm angry with the woman I call my wife, as one who should know right from wrong, who should know that a word from her could be a wound or a healing. But Emily chose to stand by, chose to be silent, or worsicos to side with the man who once abandoned her and her son. On the 4th day, Emily came to my brother's house. She didn't knock, just walked in as if nothing had happened. I was in the kitchen when I heard her voice echo, "I think you should come home. Jake needs you, and me. I'm tired of this." I walked out and looked directly into her eyes. "Is that all you came here to say?" She shrugged, arms crossed, as if she were dealing with a petulant child. "I don't know what else you want. He's a child. What if he got confused? I don't want to become a bad mother just for telling my child that his biological father is a failure. And you, I think you're too sensitive. You need to grow up if you still want to be my husband." I laughed, a painful laugh. "So that means you'd rather let the child be confused, as long as he isn't hurt, and you don't have to explain anything awkward. And I, the one who's been by your side for 6 years, didn't deserve to be trusted." She didn't answer, only a prolonged silence, colder and heavier than any words. That night, I sent Emily only one message back: "I will seriously consider divorce, not out of anger, but because I no longer feel seen." The message I sent Emily received no reply, no "I understand," no "let's talk," not even a single line of rebuttal, just silence. I kept thinking she'd at least try to hold on, or at least explain herself clearly. But no, Emily's silence was like a confirmation. If I wanted to withdraw, she wouldn't stop me. The next day, I started contacting a divorce lawyer. I didn't want things to get contentious, but I also couldn't live indefinitely in a relationship where I wasn't respected. I didn't tell anyone, but my brother Rundle, my mother-in-law, unexpectedly called. "John, this is just a misunderstanding. Please don't make it so difficult." "Okay," she said, her voice soft. I sighed. I liked my mother-in-law. She was a good person, but I didn't want to hide my feelings anymore. I've tried for 6 years. I've never asked for anything, only to be trusted and respected. But when I needed Emily to speak up, she chose to be silent. She didn't believe me. She even mocked me. On the other end of the line, she was silent for a moment, then said, "She just doesn't want Jake to be hurt. She thought you would understand, would be patient out of love for her. She thought you would be the bigger person." I laughed at it out of joy, but out of pain. I have been the bigger person for 6 years, Mom. But an adult has limits too. I hung up, my heart heavy. Not out of anger, but from mounting disappointment. Everyone wanted me to endure a little more, for the child's sake, for Emily's past, for preserving the family, but no one actually asked how exhausted I was. On the 5th day, Jake called me. "Uncle John, no." I called to ask, "Are you still mad at me?" My throat tightened. It was the first time Jake had called me since his birthday. I tried to keep my voice steady. "No, Jake, I'm not mad. I'm just a little sad." He was silent, then mumbled, I know I lied. I know you were the one who took me to buy the gift. But Dad said I shouldn't make Mom sad. So, I didn't know what to do. I closed my eyes, feeling my throat constrict. I understand. You don't need to apologize. I'm not mad at you. I just need you to know no matter what happens, I'll still love you like I did from day one. After that call, I sat alone for hours, holding my phone. I wasn't angry with Jack. I loved him more than ever. He was dragged into a battle between adults, forced to choose sides, forced to please both parties, and in the end, he got lost too. But precisely because of that, I saw even more clearly, if I stayed in this relationship, if I continued to be denied and seen as the one who can endure, not only would I be hurt, but Jake would also learn that silence and lies are the way to resolve all conflicts, and I didn't want that. That evening, I drafted a long email to Emily, not to blame, but to say goodbye. I wrote that I once loved her deeply, saw Jake as my own son, and dreamed of a strong family. But when love doesn't come with trust, all efforts are meaningless. I was no longer angry, just sad. But sometimes, leaving is also a way to preserve the best parts of memories. I sent the email to Emily close to midnight. After writing it, I didn't reread it, didn't correct, didn't review every sentence as usual. I just pressed send, then closed my laptop, turned off the lights, and lay still in the darkness. The next morning, I wasn't expecting a miracle. I wasn't hoping Emily would suddenly change, cry, apologize, or beg me to come back. I was too tired of hoping for something that the person involved didn't even care to preserve. But what surprised me was Jake. That afternoon, as I was working at my brother's house, the doorbell rang. I opened the door, and standing before me was Emily. But what silenced me was the boy behind her, holding a backpack, his eyes red and swollen. Emily said nothing. She just placed a hand lightly on Jake's shoulder and nodded. "Go ahead, honey." Jake looked up at me, choking back tears. "I want to stay with Uncle John for a few days. Can one?" Before I could answer, Emily spoke again, her voice weary. "He hasn't eaten anything since last night. Every time he mentioned you, he started crying." I stepped forward, knelt down, and hugged Jake. He squeezed me tightly, and in that moment, I understood he was still the only father he truly connected with. After Emily left, Jake and I sat on the sofa. I didn't ask much, just let him tell me whatever he wanted to. Jake said that after I disappeared, no one took him to school in the mornings. Derek had vanished again this time. The reason was urgent business trip. Jake said his mom was sad, but no one talked to each other. The whole house fell silent. Mom just sat there looking at her phone and cried. But she didn't say anything. I don't know who she was mad at. I just knew no one took me to school anymore. No one asked how I felt today. I was silent, feeling my heart constrict little by little. Uncle John, I lied on my birthday because I was afraid Dad would leave if I didn't. But in the end, you see, you're still the one who stayed. I hugged him tightly, just whispered, "I know, and I'm not mad at you. I love you." That evening, Jake fell asleep in my arms. He was exhausted, physically and mentally. I watched him sleeve his hair messy, His small face still stained with tears, and wondered, was I doing the right thing, withdrawing from a marriage that might push this child into a bigger void? But then I remembered I had tried to fill that void for the past 6 years, and Emilith only one who could protect that good thing chose not to? The next morning, I received a text from Emily. If Jake wants to stay with you for a few days, let him. I think I need time to reevaluate myself. I've been too stubborn. I'm sorry I didn't stand by you when you needed me. It wasn't a plea, nor an attempt to hold on. Just an acknowledgement, late but sincere. I didn't reply immediately. I knew an apology wouldn't change everything. But at least, it was the first sign that maybe Emily was starting to understand that some things shouldn't be left unsaid for too long. And me, I began to understand that I deserved to be chosen, not as a fallback but as a real husband, a real father. I held my phone for a long time after reading Emily's message, not because I didn't know how to reply, but because I realized for the first time in our entire marriage, she didn't tell me to grow up, didn't call me needy, didn't blame me. She said, "I'm sorry." The apology came late, but to me, it wasn't meaningless. It was like a small period mark closing the long chain of hurts I had bitten my tongue through. But is one apology enough to mend all the cracks? I'm not sure. I spent the entire weekend with Jake. We went to the park, played baseball, ate ice cream, and rewatched his favorite cartoon that I used to watch with him 2 years ago. There were small moments like when Jake rested his head on my shoulder when he was sleepy, or when he turned to look at me and asked, "Are you coming back home?" that broke my heart all over again. I didn't answer him, because I didn't know either. Home no longer felt like a peaceful place to me. Monday morning, I made an appointment with a lawyer, but not to file for divorce. I needed to understand my options, not just for myself, but for Jake. I wanted to make sure that if I left, I could still be a part of his life. I wasn't his biological father, but I had nurtured a real bond and I wasn't willing to give that up. The lawyer listened, then gently said, "You have the right to request visitation and maintain a relationship if you've lived with the child and acted as a father figure for many years." I nodded. At least, that gave me some hope. That afternoon, Emily called. No text, no sudden appearance. She called properly, like someone who needed to listen and talk. "Can you meet me for a bit?" Not to argue, but to speak honestly. I agreed. We met at a familiar coffee shop place where we had our first date. Emily arrived early. No makeup, not trying to be strong as usual. She sat straight, looking at me with tired but sincere eyes. "I think I've lived with guilt for too long. I was afraid of being a bad mother, afraid my son would be hurt by his past. So I chose the easiest way, silence. But the price was losing the person who always tried to stay." I didn't interrupt, just listened, and for the first time in months, I saw sincerity in her eyes. "I don't dare to ask you to come back, because I know I don't deserve it yet. But if there's a chance for you to still be a part of Jake's life, I won't stop you." I sighed, feeling a little lighter. "Jake is your son, but he's also my family. No matter what happens between us, I won't abandon him." We didn't make any promises about the future. No, we'll start over. No, everything will be forgiven. Just an acknowledgement. Both of us had been wrong. Both were hurt, and both needed to relearn how to love in a more mature, kinder way. That evening, I took Jake back home. He hugged me tightly before going inside, then turned back and whispered, "Uncle John, if you don't live here anymore, we'll still see each other on weekends, right?" I bent down, ruffled his hair, and smiled. "Absolutely. I'll always be the one who stays. Remember."